is okay, we can start.
स्टार्ट करें सर? ठीक सर. Respected Dr. D.K. Modi ji, Chairman Dr. K. Modi Foundation, Professor Dr. R.K. Khandal sir, Chief Mentor Dr. K. Modi Foundation, our distinguished guest Professor Dr. K.K. Agrawal, Captain Rajiv Saxena ji, Vice Chairman DKNMF, Professor Dr. Francisco C. Peter, Vice Chancellor Dr. K. Modi University, Rajasthan, Dr. R.C. Lal sir, Pro VC DKNMU, Shri Meghraj Sharma ji, Administrator DKNMF, Shri UN Mishra ji, Registrar DKNMF, Directors and Principals of various institutions under the umbrella of DKNMF, distinguished invited dignitaries, esteemed faculty members, and last but not the least, my dear students. A very warm welcome and good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Professor Vijay Kumar Sharma, Director, Dr. K. Modi Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, extend my heartiest welcome to you all in this Ashirvachanam program. It is a matter of honor and privilege for me to host the event on behalf of Dr. K. Modi Foundation. Dr. K. Modi Foundation has witnessed a long journey of academic excellence since past 77 years. More than 36,000 students of 52 courses are turning their dreams into reality with the help of 750 well-qualified faculty members in 26 institutions at Modinagar and DKNMU. The management, employees, and students of Dr. K. Modi Foundation are very much fortunate to get the opportunity to groom themselves under the dynamic leadership and mentorship of Dr. R.K. Khandal sir, who is well known for his scholastic wisdom and excellent motivational skills. And that's why he has been a great protector of Bharatiya Sanskriti, our rich cultural heritage and human values. Lured by this vitality, Dr. K. Modi Foundation has been conducting on regular basis the Ashirvachanam series to invite great personalities whose precious guidance and motivation may open new vistas and horizons of holistic development for our students and other members of Dr. K. Modi Foundation family. Today, we have with us another academic jewel who is none other than Professor Dr. K.K. Agrawal ji, Chairman National Board of Accreditation, who is in true sense an institution in himself due to his huge academic experience and expertise in higher educational areas. I hope that this Ashirvachanam program is going to be a pathfinder and turning point for all of us and particularly for our beloved students. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. R.K. Khandal sir for his blessings in the form of his mesmerizing keynote address. Dr. Khandal sir, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Vijay Sharma ji. I'm really honored and in fact grateful to none other than the chairman of the foundation, Dr. K. Modi Foundation, Professor Dr. Modi. Professor Dr. Modi ji ko pranam. The foundation is 80 years old, almost, maybe more, and it has expanded on the vision and mandate given by its founder, Dr. K. Modi. And I'm really honored to be associated with it. I am learning each and every day when I interact with faculty, with students of Dr. K. Modi Foundation. And I agree with you, Professor Sharma, when you say that Ashirvachanam, by personalities, by great souls, by national asset, like Professor K.K. Agrawal. I always say that what Dr. K.N. Modi had thought of in his time, he was the person, an industrialist ahead of his times. He did things which all other industrialists of his time could not even imagine. setting up of educational institutions in rural areas. And we are seeing it today. So this program, Ashirvachanam, the concept which Professor Dr. D.K. Modi has put in place in practice and in use. And today we have a great personality, Professor K.K. Agarwal. Professor K.K. Agarwal and Madam Mrs. Agarwal, दोनों को मैं प्रणाम करता हूँ और चरण स्पर्श. I always tell him that he is a national asset. In fact, he's a global asset. Person of his expertise, person of his acumen, person of his experience is rare in this world. And I always request him that, sir, you should go to the students. आप तो सारे संस्थानों में जाओ, आप तो सारे फाउंडेशंस को आशीर्वाद दो और आपके आशीर्वचन से सब लोग लाभान्वित हों. इससे देश बनेगा, इससे पूरे विश्व की शिक्षा का स्तर बढ़ेगा. प्रोफेसर के अग्रवाल ऐसे शिक्षाविद हैं, ऐसे रिसर्चर और इनोवेटर हैं जिन्होंने ना केवल पढ़ाया, ना केवल पढ़ाई का मैनेजमेंट, एजुकेशन मैनेजमेंट किया, बल्कि उन्होंने उच्च श्रेणी का, उच्च कोटि का अध्ययन के साथ साथ लिखा भी. उनकी जो बुक्स हैं वो ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड स्टूडेंट्स रेफर करते हैं. और उन्होंने सबसे बड़ी बात जो जीवन में की, जिससे मैं बहुत प्रभावित हूं, वो ये है, ही ट्राइड टू क्रिएट कैपेबिलिटीज. उन्होंने ब्रिजेस डेवलप किए बिटवीन एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड इंडस्ट्री. मुझे स्मरण है कि आज से लगभग मोर देन 12 years ago, or maybe 15 years from today, 15 years ago, I had signed an MOU with Professor Agarwal. Thanks to Mrs. Agarwal. मैं नमन करता हूं मिसेस अग्रवाल को भी. आप दोनों की जोड़ी श्रेष्ठ जोड़ी है और आपका इस सभा में, इस आयोजन में एज ए चीफ गेस्ट उपस्थित होना, मैं अपने आप को सौभाग्यशाली मानता हूं. और मेरे विचार से डॉक्टर के.एन. मोदी फाउंडेशन के लिए ये एक गौरव दिवस है कि आप जैसे पुण्य आत्मा आज इस सभा में आशीर्वचन देने आए हैं. मैं 2-3 बात कहना चाहता हूं सर से कि सर, आप एक शिक्षाविदी नहीं, आज आपके हाथ में इतना बड़ा उत्तरदायित्व, इतनी बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, और वो बीइंग ए चेयरमैन ऑफ एनबीए. और आज whether one likes or one doesn't like, NBA accreditation is a must. तो आप जैसा व्यक्तित्व उस पद पर है, उसके हाथ में ये बागडोर है कि सारे इंस्टीट्यूट NBA accredited हो जाएं. तो मेरा केवल इतना ही निवेदन है कि सर, फाउंडेशंस लाइक डॉक्टर के.एन. मोदी फाउंडेशन, since I am attached with them very closely and has been associated with them, they will always be dedicated to whatever jobs, whatever responsibilities you will assign us to perform in that regard. Under your guidance, under your leadership, all the organizations, all academic institutions in this country are prospering, and we would like that Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation also keeps getting your blessings. So thank you very much, sir, for accepting my invitation to be here amongst us. And I would not like to be between Professor Agarwal and the students and faculty. I must, of course, before I stop talking, I must, of course, welcome all the directors, Professor Vijay Sharma, Professor Deepankar Sharma, Meghraj ji, of course, the Registrar UN Mishra ji, Captain Saxena ji, and Professor Lal and Professor Peter Francis, and of course, Hamare Manish ji, who is actually organizing this program. He does it very efficiently. And I have seen, I'm very happy, whatever program Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation organizes, these online programs, they are perfect. And I think this Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation is one of those rare ones who started online education well before the lockdown started. And even the students take the webinars to actually, so teaching learning is a in thing here for quite some time. So thank you very much, sir. नमन आपको, चरण स्पर्श, और मैडम को भी चरण स्पर्श, सर. थैंक यू वेरी मच. मैं वाणी को विराम देता हूं और आगे मैं विजय शर्मा जी से निवेदन करता हूं, आगे बढ़.
Now, before the Ashirvachanam starts, I would like to invite Mrs. Sakshi Garg to deliver a brief introduction about our respected distinguished chief guest, Professor K.K. Agarwal, sir. Mrs. Sakshi.
Thank you very much, sir. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I find immense pleasure in introducing our honorable chief guest, Professor K.K. Agarwal, sir. He obtained his Bachelor of Engineering degree from Punjab University and Master's degree from NIT Kurukshetra. Later, he did his PhD also from NIT Kurukshetra. After a distinguished service of 27 years at NIT Kurukshetra, Professor Agrawal served as Pro Vice Chancellor GJU Hisar for a period of 3 years, and then as Founder Vice Chancellor of GGS Indraprasth University, Delhi for a period of 10 years. He has been president of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers from 2002 to 2004, President Computer Society of India from 2007 to 2009, and President of Southeast Asia Regional Computer Confederation from 2008 to 2010. Professor Agrawal has published approximately 400 papers in the reputed journals, about 50% of these in international journals. He has been widely consulted by the industry, most notable being his contribution towards the reliability analysis for PSLV. Professor Agrawal was conferred the honorary fellowship by Broadcast Society of India. He was decorated with Lifetime Achievement Award by IETE and also by Computer Society of India. Professor Agrawal has been associated with NBA in various capacities since its inception and was chairman EEAC Tier 2nd before taking over as chairman NBA on 14th January 2019. Now I would like to invite Professor KK Agrawal sir to enlighten us with his precious words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sakshi Garg, for the introduction. Chairman of Dr. K.N. Mehdi Foundation, Professor Dr. D.K. Modi ji, my dear friend and guide and whatever, Professor Khandal. We have been working together for several years, more informally than formally, but making a difference. A very eminent faculty of this great institution, group of institutions rather, and dear students. Well, when Professor Khandal requests me for anything, it's impossible to say no to it, and that's how I'm here. Ashirvachanam is a program which I think should be really reserved for persons who are much higher in level than me, who have earned the rights of giving Ashirvachanam. But nonetheless, I just obey Professor Khandal and make myself a part of this great innovative program, Ashirvachanam. Please pardon me, I'll be little informal, because when you talk about Ashirvachanam, you have to at times quote yourself, which is not a very sober thing to do. But when you have to tell the youth that this is how the things can go on in life, at times you have to give personal examples. And I believe that will serve the purpose, particularly for the youth of this country. My maximum focus will be on the students, because I always believe, number one, I may have some right to give Ashirvachanam to the students, not to the faculty, number one. Number two, I always believe it is the student's life which we have to transform, which we have to give more meaning to, because they have many, many more years of life to give to this nation, to give to this world than our generation people. So my primary focus will be addressing the young students. But before starting that, I think I must join Professor Kandal and others to compliment Dr. K.N. Mehdi Foundation to think of starting a good group of institutions in a remote area like Modi Nagar at that time. I think I can just imagine Modi Nagar those years. Today, of course, Modi Nagar itself is a reasonably big town, but at that time, what Modi Nagar might have been when the courage was there to start institutions there. Well, friends, I find in this country there have been several philanthropists, real philanthropists, who did these experiments in rural areas, in remote areas, because the purpose was more holy than just teaching and getting degrees for the students. Because giving degrees to the students could have been achieved anywhere, but to make sure that the complete region will be transformed, the transformation was in their subconscious mind when they started these bold decisions of starting institutions at such remote locations. And today, I think Modi Nagar, maybe it may be difficult to say whether today Modi Nagar is because of K.N. Modi Foundation or K.N. Modi Foundation is because of Modi Nagar. It's very difficult because when the regions get transformed, it happens. I served 27 years in Kurukshetra, and I always used to say, just imagine the town of Kurukshetra without Kurukshetra University and NIT Kurukshetra. Just imagine, take out NIT Kurukshetra and Kurukshetra University from the town of Kurukshetra, and where are we? Nowhere. So, in private sector, Manipal Group, a town like Udupi, which probably had half a dozen shops in the whole town, today is on the world map of the country. So these are the examples where bold decisions for transformation were taken. Results obviously took time. It could not happen overnight, but the feelings were great, the planning was great, the transformative spirit was great, and therefore I would certainly like to pay my compliments to Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation and its present chairman and all the colleagues for having done this, because it's not transforming a few students, it's transforming an area, it's transforming a town, and that is how the things develop in this country. Even now, many a times when we discuss, this is a small place, will the university work here? Many a times I have faced these questions. I am sure Professor Kandal must have faced this question. I have only one answer. If you're sure of quality, yes, it will. But if you're not sure of quality, it will not. Now that focus is very important, and these examples are there from the whole world. I always say, Professor Kandal would agree with me, research Triangle Park in United States of America, where 3 small towns, very small towns, probably much smaller than Modi Nagar at that time, form a triangle, about 20 kilometers each side of the triangle. And these 3 towns, now I can call them towns, but at that time maybe they were houses or such a great research contribution to the whole world happens from there, and this is known as RTP, or Research Triangle Park, for the whole world. So why I am trying to tell you this is, there are people who have to take bold decisions. There are people who have to take transformation as their genuine agenda, and that is how the world develops. In the whole process, many wrong things will also happen. that's okay. I have always been saying in the lighter vein, if the number of 100% honest people in this country is much more than the population of UK. Therefore, we should never be poorer than UK at least. Forget about all bad people. Just ignore them. Completely don't talk about them. Let's talk about only good people. It is in this country you find the honest most politicians. Number may be very small. It is in this country you find the 100% honest bureaucrat secretaries to Government of India. You find 100% honest DGPs and all that. Number may be small, but even that number is good enough to take our country forward. Why don't we do that? Somebody asked me once, how do you define the progress of the country? I said, if a right-thinking person can walk on the street of the town with broad chest, then we are progressing. But if a wrong person has the courage to walk with broad chest and the right-thinking person has to bow his head down to walk on the street, then we are on the bad track. So test is very simple. We have to just promote goodness. Goodness will be small in number, but that has to be promoted, and that's how it goes on. Taking a personal example, once I was a candidate for Vice Chancellorship of Kurukshetra University. It was long back when Chaudhry Bansilal was the Chief Minister of Haryana. And you all know Chaudhry Bansilal was a very, very bold, but very could be very rude at times Chief Minister. I said, sir, I am the best candidate. He said, Hoga bhai. I said, sir, what do you mean? He says, then he says, according to you, how should a Vice Chancellor be selected? Somehow he had the decency to ask me this question. According to you, how should a Vice Chancellor be selected? Sir, you are honest to listen to the answer? He says, yes, batao. I said, sir, Vice Chancellor का CV यूनिवर्सिटी के नोटिस बोर्ड पे लगा दो और अपने CID के 2 अफसरों को 100 मीटर दूर पे खड़ा कर दो. यदि वो CV पढ़कर हर टीचर का, हर स्टूडेंट का माथा ऊंचा हो जाए तो चॉइस ठीक है. यदि उस CV को देखकर स्टूडेंट्स का और टीचर अपना माथा पीट लें तो आपकी चॉइस गलत है. इससे ऊपर कोई क्राइटेरिया नहीं चाहिए. और यदि ये क्राइटेरिया रखा जाएगा तो इस देश को कभी गलत वाइस चांसलर्स नहीं मिलेंगे. और यह शायद इस देश का दुर्भाग्य है कि हम बहुत बार वाइस चांसलर ठीक सेलेक्ट नहीं कर पा रहे. और यदि वो होता है तो एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन की लीडरशिप जब गड़बड़ होती है, क्योंकि इंस्टीट्यूशंस लीडरशिप के साथ चलते हैं, वो टीम वर्क इज परफेक्टली फाइन, बट यू ऑलवेज नीड द लीडर्स टू वर्क ऑन and they can carry the team along. Team doesn't carry the leader along. Leader has to carry the team along. That's a very important point which I thought I'll make. I was in another webinar at the national level talking about national education policy. You know, this is our duty and pastime these days. Every day to give about 2 webinars on national education policy. How will it be implemented is still a question mark, but nonetheless we talk about it every day, 2-3 sessions. And I said, somebody asked me, said, sir, if I want you to give just 2 sentences to implement this policy, what will you say? I said, 2 sentences for a policy which has come in 34 years. Says, yes, 2 sentences. I said, give me 100 vice chancellors and 10,000 school teachers every year and leave the rest to us. Nothing else is required. Infrastructure will come by itself. But just about 100 good vice chancellors which can lead higher education and about 5,000, 10,000 school teachers who can transform the early lives is all what we need for implementation of a national education policy. Everything else will follow. And I'm sorry we are faltering on both these aspects. We see the school education today by and large. What is happening? Teacher has not remained teacher at all. Teacher has become an employee. Now, once the teacher has become an employee, education cannot happen. We say, I still remember, and so will be Professor Khandal and other senior people here, we had teachers, at least some of them. And if I give you some examples, I was in a Sanskrit class. I'm talking about Sanskrit because that's your great focus here in K.N. Modi Foundation. Sanskrit was one of my favorite subjects at school level for several reasons. One of the reasons, of course, was it was a very scoring subject. And therefore, you felt Sanskrit should give us better marks and things like that. And of course, the culture of the house, family, and all that was there. When the teacher of Sanskrit was teaching, he had taught us grammar. And as you know, Sanskrit has the most perfect grammar in the world. There is no other language whose grammar is more perfect than Sanskrit. So he had taught us grammar. And then in Sanskrit, because everything is to be covered scientifically, we have a rule, and then we have an exception to the rule. Well, if this doesn't happen, then this rule does not apply. So the professor had earlier taught us that the rule and then exception to the rule. When he was teaching from the text and explaining to us the meaning, I said, sir, this is printed wrongly in the book. He said, what? Said, sir, this is printed as per the original rule, but the construct is as per exception to the rule. So therefore, this is wrong. Well, he said, no, my dear boy, this is correct. Well, days were far better. Once the professor says it's okay, you have to keep quiet. That's the end of it. But I kept quiet. But what I'm trying to tell you is that is what our teachers have to keep in mind for Ashir Vachanam to the students. Professor took half a minute and then came back. He said, well, I cannot keep you dissatisfied. I have told you it is correct, but no, it is not correct. But it is published correctly. Then he said, there is a rule in Sanskrit, then there is an exception to the rule, which I had taught you, and you're looking for that exception. Then there's an exception to the exception, which I did not teach you because that is very, very dear. But this is a case of rule, exception to the rule which I had taught you, which you are looking forward to, and exception to the exception where the original rule comes back. So that is why the book is giving original rule, although you understand it's an exception to the rule, but this is where the scenario is. And he took complete 45 minutes of the remaining class to explain that exception to the exception. Now, the point which I am trying to say is, as a student, I was quiet. But as a teacher, his conscience did not allow him to keep a student dissatisfied. He knew I'm not satisfied by his answer. But he made sure that he has a duty to satisfy myself. Now, that is what has been teaching. That is what has been teaching as a career. Another example I remember when our professor of mathematics one day came, he put out of the 100 students in the class, took 20 outside on the front benches, and he says, these are the 2 questions which you 20 at least must answer. When these are obviously tough questions. And after about half an hour, 35 minutes, he started asking student number 1, have you done anything? No, sir. 2, no. I think I was number 11th or something. He asked 10th student. He said, no. He skipped me and then went to 12th. Have you answered any question? No. After finishing all 19, he comes back to me. He says, have you answered any question? I thought I took myself to cloud 9. Well, none of the student has been able to solve any question out of the 2. I have been able to solve 1. So I said, sir, I have solved 1. And lo and behold, he was so rough with me. He was so rude with me. He says, if my year-long teaching cannot make you answer both the questions, then what have I taught you? He didn't say you are bad. He didn't say you are incapable. He said, then what have I taught you? If you can answer only 1 question, not the 2, and then he told me, you think you are best student in this class of 100? And that makes you happy? I want you to be best in the world. And therefore, none else has been able to answer 1 question. You have been able to answer 1 should not make you happy, should make you go forward. And I think those were the kinds of sentences which made us believe and feel, yes, your playground is not your college, your playground is not your university, your playground is not your country. You have to be leader at a global level. And I think why I'm trying to narrate this is that makes Professor Kandal tell me today that I have made some contributions even at the global level, but these were kind of teachers. Today in the National Policy of Education, we have gone to early childhood education, where we believe formal stream should start from age of 3. Well, people are still debating over it, but I read a paper. It says on the average, a child of 4 asks 73 questions per day, whether to the parents, whether to the brothers, sisters, or class fellows, or what. The paper says about 73 questions per day are asked by the teacher, by the student at that age. And that is the curiosity which we have to satisfy. That is the curiosity which we have to answer. And that is where we need teachers of that level, which can bring the transformation to this country. Well, degrees is fine. You get BA, BSc, BTech, MBBS, everything is fine. But are you getting education? That great question has hovered this country for last 40, 50 years in a very strong manner. And I still remember I was in a panel with the then HRD Minister, Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi, in the NDA 1 with Atalji, and we were in the same panel, and we were discussing B.Ed education. And I said, sir, we are giving B.Ed degrees, we are not producing teachers. He says, Professor Agarwal, you are making a very strong statement. I said, sir, you are elder to me. If I am wrong, please correct it. But I am very sure I am right. We are distributing B.Ed degrees. We are not producing teachers. And if a country does not produce teachers, then producing students of the requisite level just does not arise. And that is what we have done it too long, and B.Ed course became one of the laughing stocks of this country. If I use the word, very few institutions, maybe less than 5%, who were really B.Ed education were being given. Otherwise, B.Ed degrees were being distributed. I had a person who had the cheek to come to me when I was Vice Chancellor, say, sir, घर की garage खाली पड़ी है, एक साथ वाला कमरा भी spare हो सकता है, B.Ed शुरू कर लूं? I mean, I'm sure Professor Khandal also must have faced some such questions. People felt that it's a joke. And unfortunately, we accepted it. And I was on the EC of a university where half the agenda every month used to be about B.Ed colleges because things were just not functioning. Now, if we have those B.Ed graduates as the teachers to these young students, we expect them to become good citizens of this country, good engineers, good doctors, good managers. Absolutely nothing. We can't make good engineers, good doctors. I have been in engineering education. Professor Khandal has been in very great research on chemistry and chemical engineering. I mean, if you're not a good human being, how you can be a good researcher? How can you be a good engineer, good doctor? The other day I was talking in a webinar, I said in the National Policy of Education now, we are giving more and more broad-based education. At least we are contemplating that. I'm using the word contemplating because I yet to see what happens. But otherwise, the universities, heads of departments will fight out, well, mechanical engineering student, how can you give him degree unless he learns theory of machines, 3 papers, strength of materials, 2 papers? I mean, they will argue that how can I give him a degree if he doesn't do that? And I used to argue, you set a question paper with 8 questions and then ask him to do any 5. And then if he does 2 correctly, he gets 35 to 40 marks and he passes. So that means you are giving him a degree without reading 75% of the subject anyway. Because if he does 25% correctly, he's passing in that subject. Now, if 75% of this subject can be ignored, 75% of this subject can be ignored, 75% of this subject can be ignored, heavens are not going to fall if 3 subjects are ignored. But this argument became very difficult to be sold. I think IP University was the first university in the country. National Policy of Education has come now, where I had said, well, an engineering student, instead of 40 courses, 5 per semester for 8 semesters, you please study 44 courses and feel comfortable to fail in any 4 if you so wish to. That was done in 1999. Because I knew of cases sometimes a student fails a subject only because teacher is bad. Student is not bad at all. Why should he suffer only for that particular cause? So there were many aberrations which had come in. I was reading the life sketch of a Nobel laureate. He got Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 1944. And his name is Isidore Isaac Rabi, the physicist who won the Nobel Prize. And he says, I got Nobel Prize in physics because of my mother. And then he says, my mother doesn't know what is Nobel Prize. My mother doesn't even know what is physics. But it is she who made me have the Nobel Prize. And then he goes on to explain, every day when the children will come from the school, their mothers will ask, what did you study? And the students will answer, what did they study? He says, my mother would ask me every day, did you ask a good question to a teacher today? Now that single factor that my mother every day will ask me, did I ask a good question to a teacher? Made me get the Nobel Prize in Physics. Because the inquisitiveness is killed. If inquisitiveness in education is killed, then we are nowhere. And that is what we did to very formalizing education. when I go to school education talking about, firstly we said, well, class must start at 8:30. If you come 8:32, you're late enough. And teacher must come at 8:30. If he's at 8:32, a principal will take her to task. And then she must teach up to 9:45. Well, fair enough. And then on Monday morning, only these 5 pages of the book are to be covered. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. And if that is not done, and then we said, okay, make the course file. Give us in writing every day. Did you cover these 5 pages? Did you solve these 3 problems in the class? That is how we started over structuring our education from school and right up to highest level of education. No flexibility at all. The teacher did not have any flexibility. Student did not have any flexibility. University gave a sheet of paper called a syllabus. College did not have any flexibility. Teacher did not have any flexibility. That is how our education system started working, where everything was completely rigidized, was completely so-called structured, and that is where we killed, I'm using a very strong word, we killed the creativity of our students for last 50, 60 years in a very calculated manner, maybe in a very subconscious style. And an analyst worked out, if a child of 3 has a creativity, say 100%, in this country, a child of 18 had creativity of 10%. Now, who are these culprits who killed 90% creativity? All of us. And then we believe we will produce creative engineers, creative doctors, creative architects, creative managers. Well, we have already killed the creativity from 100 to 10. And now we expect creativity to be rebuilt in. And then we started in management schools, finishing schools, and life skill courses, and so on and so forth. And in one of the convocations, I did say in the lighter vein, first of all, you pay through the nose to the schools to kill the creativity. Then your parents again pay through the nose to the finishing school to try to restart it. Now that is what our system had become. So it is in this context, I believe, some good experiments in this country, like Dr. K.N. Mehdi Foundation and some more, where these things, well, at times they also had to follow the line because you cannot isolate yourself from the country. But nonetheless, some of them did keep the value system, which kept us going. And that value system is very, very important. Today we talk about multidisciplinary education. Our education was always multidisciplinary to begin with. And which student will learn what was a choice between the student and the teacher, not by anyone else. When you go to a cricket coach, sir, mujhe cricket sikha dijiye, he decides with you whether you have the potential to be a batsman or a bowler. You don't decide it. And then if a bowler, whether you will be a good fast bowler, you will be a good seam bowler, or if you're a fielder, whether offside will suit you, onside will suit you, this position will suit you. This is decided between the coach and the student, and that is how we get the best of cricketers. Now imagine, there's a rule. Well, if you are more than 60% marks in 12th, then you can become a batsman. If it is between 50 to 60, you can become a bowler. If that were the rule, what would have happened to sports? Just imagine. But we did that to studies. We did that to academics. If you fall sick night before the 10th class examination and you get little less marks in 10th, the school will not allow you to study science. In 11th and 12th, they will just not admit you to science. So one night sickness can cost you engineering, can cost you medicine, because there's no mechanism on earth by which you could do that. And if you don't take science in 11th and 12th, the question of getting into engineering or medicine does not arise. But today, in the new national education policy, we have come to the scenario where we do believe that we will undo some of these things partially. For example, schooling will not have a rigid structures that you're a commerce student or a humanities student or a non-medical science or medical science. You will be just a 12th class student with whatever subjects you choose from. And then, well, if you want to go to engineering, yes, maybe you don't do it in 4 years because you don't have that background. You might take 5 years, but so what? Professor Kandal also talked about my role as National Board of Accreditation. See, we completely forgot the things. National Board of Accreditation, because of the Washington Accord, and all of you senior people know that, we go to outcome-based education, and Washington Accord forces us to go for outcome-based education. And I was reading the history of outcome-based education. Outcome-based education did not start from engineering. It started from a sociology school teacher. And it started in 1940s. In 1940s, outcome-based education in America was started by a sociology teacher. And she explained, well, how many courses, how many credits is immaterial. The point is, what did you expect a student to have learned? Can you put it on a piece of paper? And then, can you assess whether he has achieved it or not? That's all. He says the trouble of education is when and how. You decide when can one get admission into this, when can one get admission into architecture, when can one get admission into MBA. I mean, I don't know, many of you would agree. What does BA has to do to MBA to begin with? But we will not admit somebody to MBA till he has done graduation. Now, after BTech also you can do MBA. After MBBS also you can do MBA. After BSc also you can do MBA. Then why not after 12? So, but we made rules that this has to be like this. Nothing more, nothing less. So that is where the whole thing started crumbling down, and we decide that this is how it will move. Hopefully now things will change. Interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary education, who can do what. If an engineering student wants to do some courses in music, what is wrong in this? Today, all your musical instruments are very heavily IT based, very heavily computer science based. All of them work on microchips and microcontrollers. So if a student has a background of computer science, maybe he can do much better in design of those instruments. In Kerala, there's a temple where there are several pillars, and if you strike a pillar, it gives you the voice of a violin. You strike another pillar, it gives you the voice of another musical instrument, and so on and so forth. So it's the chamber design of the pillar, which must have been done 500 years ago, which gives you the physics embedded therein. Today, we forget about the physics therein, and therefore, now we believe we must be able to allow the students to have choice of subjects in a very different manner as per his or her choice, and out of the box learning can take place only then. I was reading all of you have heard about Keynes, the most famous economist. Keynes theory we have all heard. And I just quote great economist Keynes, who said, an economist must be a mathematician, An economist must be a historian, economist must be a statesman and a philosopher, and in equal measure. This is what Lord Keynes he seems to have said. And but we believe Keynes means economics. And therefore बच्चे की जान निकाल दो इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाते पढ़ाते, बाकी उसको कुछ सोचने नहीं दो. That is what we did. And I think now it's an opportunity for us to take some of these things back to the right point. We talk about disruption technology. Yes, disruption has always been there in the world. World has been, yes, COVID has probably been the largest disruption, but disruptions have been way of life. I remember writing was considered a disruption because earlier it was felt, आप गुरुजी से सुनो, याद करो, इम्तिहान दो, का बात खत्म, लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. So when writing was invented, it was considered as a disruption. Then when printing press came in, it was considered as a disruption. क्योंकि printing press से पहले बच्चे को किताब दोबारा पढ़ने का मौका ही नहीं था, इसलिए क्लास में सुनना ही पड़ता था. अब प्रिंटिंग प्रेस है, घर जाके किताब पढ़ लेगा, इसलिए क्लास में बातें कर सकता है, शोर मचा सकता है, शरारत कर सकता है. तो इससे डिसरप्शन. सो डिसरप्शंस, व्हाट्सएप इज ए डिसरप्शन. हमने बोलना छोड़ दिया, व्हाट्सएप से बात चलेगी सारी. अब ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग इज ए डिसरप्शन. एंड नाउ पीपल हैव स्टार्टेड बिलीविंग जैसे ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन बहुत अच्छी चीज है. ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन अच्छी चीज है, इसने हमारी बहुत मदद की है, पर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि फेस टू फेस एजुकेशन की वैल्यू नहीं है, क्लासरूम एजुकेशन की वैल्यू नहीं है. आई वाज इन एन इंटरनेशनल वेबिनार आई थिंक 3 days बिफोर. आई सेड जो बच्चे आपस में लड़ते हैं ना, वो भी एजुकेशन है. जब टीचर से थोड़ी शरारत करते हैं, वो भी एजुकेशन है. जब आपस में इकट्ठे मिलके गेम में लड़ाई करते हैं, वो भी एजुकेशन है. और वो सब भी हम नहीं छोड़ सकते, उस तरफ हमें बढ़ना पड़ेगा. एंड फाइनली, बिकॉज द नेम इज आशीर्वचनम, I think every country can develop to the highest point only and only when you stand on your own foundation. A building which stands on a false foundation can never be a good building. And that is what we have done again in this country for quite some time. Our foundation used to be very strong. We have to continue to build on our value system. Unless we do that, we cannot really deliver to learn on others' laurels. So whether it is science, whether it's engineering, whether it's management. Talking about management, Tata started the first school of management in Calcutta, and its title was Tata School of Business and Social Welfare. So our business was always supposed to be associated with social welfare. Ultimately फिर IIM आ गया, सब कुछ आ गया, social welfare कहीं पीछे रह गया और सिर्फ बिजनेस रह गया, क्योंकि वो अमेरिका में चलता था. हमारे देश में यदि बिजनेस चलेगा तो वो सोशल वेलफेयर के साथ ही चलेगा. हमारे देश में यदि इंडस्ट्री चलेगी तो वो अपने देश की बैकग्राउंड के साथ चलेगी. आज अमेरिका हमें सस्टेनेबिलिटी डेवलपमेंट गोल्स पढ़ा रहा है और फेल हो रहा है, और हम सब फेल हो रहे हैं. इस देश में तो हर गांव सस्टेनेबल था, हर सिटी सस्टेनेबल था. यदि बड़ी इंडस्ट्री के लिए लोगों को अब बिहार से यूपी न आना पड़ता तो कोविड की समस्या आधी होती. वो अपने अपने शहर में ही काम कर रहे होते, तो कोविड की समस्या से जूझना हमारे लिए बहुत आसान होता. तो जो हमारे देश के लिए सुइटेबल है, आई डोंट से वी हैव टू गो बैक कंप्लीटली. Maybe we don't go to a sustainable village now, but we can go to a sustainable district maybe. Maybe a complete district has a very good university, has a very good industry, has a very good thing, and therefore at least a unit, a self-contained unit is possible nearby our places. That could be our culture. We will have to develop our own strengths, our own style of living, our own value system, our own respect for the teacher, our own respect for the colleagues, our own national heritage and national culture. You cannot develop on others' cultures and take forward And somebody, I think in one of the earlier convocations I quoted, every country had to identify something on waste of which it can write. You cannot become Vishwaguru by just on talking on Vishwaguru. You have to find out first what can make you Vishwaguru. अमेरिका ने सोचा कि वो दुनिया भर की सबसे अच्छी सड़कें बनाएंगे और वो विश्वगुरु बन जाएंगे, बन गए। यूके ने सोचा वो टेक्सटाइल में दुनिया में किसी को टिकने नहीं देंगे और वो विश्वगुरु बन जाएंगे और बन गए। अरब कंट्रीज ने सोचा वो ऑयल को ऐसा कब्जे में रखेंगे कि विश्वगुरु बन जाएंगे, सारी दुनिया उनसे ऑयल मांगेगी और वो विश्वगुरु बन गए। अब भारत ने क्या सोचा है कि हम विश्वगुरु बनेंगे? मेरे हिसाब से एक ही सॉल्यूशन है कि हम अपने जो भगवान ने इनहेरेंट वैल्यू सिस्टम दिया है, ब्रेन दिया है। इंडियन चाइल्ड इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट gifted child. I think Professor Kandal would agree with me, having traveled all over the world, is one of the most gifted child. We have to exploit that gift, and our teachers and all of us have to make sure we make use of that gift of the God to make him come out of it, and rather than other way around. Somebody rightly said, वो माइकल एंजेलो ने एक स्टैचू बनाया तो उसके फ्रेंड ने कहा, very beautiful statue. He said, I didn't make anything. स्टैचू तो इसके अंदर ही था, मैंने तो एक्स्ट्रा पत्थर हटा दिया, तो स्टैचू अंदर से निकल आया। तो हमारा जो इस देश के बच्चे को भगवान ने गिफ्ट दे रखा है, उस गिफ्ट के जो ऊपर एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट ने कुछ मिट्टी डस्ट लगा दी है, वो हमने हटानी है। इतना ही हमारा काम है। और मैं ये सोचता हूँ आज के आशीर्वचनम में मैं यदि यही मैसेज कन्वे कर सकूं कि बच्चे की पोटेंशियल को डेवलप करने में ही हमारा सिंगल पॉइंट एजेंडा हो, तो इस देश को आगे बढ़ने में कोई नहीं रोक सकता। और ऐसी फाउंडेशंस जो इतनी लार्ज जनसंख्या में बच्चों को सुधार कर रही हैं, आई एम नॉट सेइंग सिर्फ डिग्रियां दे रही हैं, उनको थोड़ा सा डिग्री से हटके सुधार की तरफ बढ़ जाए तो देखा जाएगा। क्योंकि अब नेशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ एजुकेशन आपको थोड़ा इनेबल करती है, थोड़ा फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी देती है। यूजीसी थोड़ा सा डाइल्यूट हो रही है, एआईसीटी थोड़ा सा डाइल्यूट हो रही है, तो अब अपने पुराने वैल्यू सिस्टम को अब मिक्स करके आगे बढ़िए। तो फाउंडेशन एंड many such foundations do terrifically great job in this country, particularly when you have persons like Professor Kandal to help you every day and out. Let us be bold enough. यूजीसी किसी चीज को ऑब्जेक्ट करेगी तो बोलो नहीं, नेशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ एजुकेशन में लिखा है, हम करेंगे और वो ठीक होगा। और पढ़ाई के साथ वैल्यू सिस्टम बहुत जरूरी है। और मैं तो यही कहता हूँ, हमारा पिरामिड जो होना पड़ेगा, इंजीनियरिंग एजुकेशन की ज्यादा बात करता हूँ क्योंकि सारी उम्र वही क्या है, हमारा पिरामिड ये होगा, पहले गुड ह्यूमन बीइंग, उसके ऊपर गुड इंजीनियर, उसके ऊपर गुड मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर और उसके ऊपर गुड रेफ्रिजरेशन इंजीनियर। हमने बिल्कुल उल्टा चला, रेफ्रिजरेशन सिखा दी, इंसानियत बुलवा दी। तो वो हमें पिरामिड को ठीक से चलाना पड़ेगा, चाहे वो मैनेजमेंट की बात हो, चाहे इंजीनियरिंग की बात हो, चाहे मेडिसिन की बात हो। और मैं ये मानता हूँ आपने जो मुझे आज ये अवसर दिया कि अपने दिल की कुछ बातें आपसे कर सकूं, मैंने पढ़ाई लिखाई की बात आज बहुत कम की है, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि हमें रास्ता यहीं से मिलेगा, क्योंकि रास्ता हमें यूनिक ढूंढना पड़ेगा। अमेरिका के रास्ते पे चल के नहीं हम विश्वगुरु बनेंगे, इंग्लैंड के रास्ते पे चल के नहीं बनेंगे, अपने रास्ते पे चल के बनेंगे। और अपना रास्ता अपने पास है, उसको सिर्फ हमें जरा बोल्डली चलना पड़ेगा। खंडाल साहब जैसे लोगों को आगे लगा के पीछे चलते रहना पड़ेगा और वो बिल्कुल हम पहुंचेंगे उस रास्ते पे। इन शब्दों के साथ मैं बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ प्रोफेसर खंडाल का, डॉक्टर के.एन. मेदी फाउंडेशन का, to give me an opportunity to talk to the youngsters this afternoon. And thank you very much. Wish you all the best. If there are any discussion points, I'm prepared. Thank you very much.
Sir, it is superb. It is superb. And I think superb is a very small word to say and to talk about what you have spoken. My sincere request to Manish to make a record of this, make a make a pen drive of it and send it to Professor Agrawal. And please make copy on all the media, the social media, because such lecture is very rare. I have, at least in recent times, not heard such a lecture coming from such a prominent person. And sir, today you have really spoken from your heart. Let me submit what all my take-home points from your lecture. First and foremost is that the Indian students, Indian souls, are the most gifted children of the world. In India, we are really lucky that our forefathers were rishis and munis. And because our forefathers were rishis and munis, their mental status, their genetical makeup, their complete gene mutation had happened in such a manner that the brain developed the most developed part of the body of Indian forefathers was their brain. So by birth, we are brainy fellows. This is first take-home point. The second take-home point, you said very rightly and very humorously that first we spend time to kill the creativity and then we master killing it. And at a stage we come to say, now let us make him creative. Spend time to now regenerate creativity. I completely agree with you, sir. I always tell people that up to 11 years of age, children should never be asked to read, study, write anything. They should only be allowed to ask questions. Like you said, the creativity is maximum in the children and it gets killed by the time they come to 11th standard or 12th standard. In my opinion, up to 11 years of age, the children should be asked to play sports, do yoga, do dancing, do musical instruments. Each child should be made to play one musical instrument at least. And we should teach our languages. In North India, the North Indian children should be taught language like Tamil, language like Telugu, language like Malayalam, language like Odia, Bangla, Assamese. And the South Indian students, children, should be taught languages of the other states. This is another thing we should do. So this is very good take-home point that we should really not kill the creativity of the children. And in this new education policy, we should do this. The third take-home point, which you have very rightly and very subtly described it, what a teacher should be, how a teacher should be, how a teacher should behave, how he should treat his students, and what a student should do to actually imbibe all that is taught to him or to her by the teacher. Because finding fault with the student, saying that this batch is the horrible batch, this batch is worse than the last batch, is a very bad on the part of the teacher. The teacher should find fault in himself or herself if a student is not performing. Because as per our system, our Vedic, our Sanatan system, each child is a resource for a teacher, is available, a tool for a teacher to create knowledge. So we should be able to, knowledge can never be created one way. Knowledge can never be created by a teacher speaking and student taking notes. It can only be created by vichar vimarsh. It can it can only be created by discussions. I think this is one carry home point which I am really going to take it home. The other point you said very, very nicely, sir, is about the systems. You said about how the education system should be. Why should there be binding? If a student wants to pursue a particular subject, if he or she wants to do a degree or learn that, he or she should be allowed to do it. And I really salute you. And all of us must salute you for the purpose that you did almost 20 years ago in IP University. I remember I have seen it, how you were so aggressive and you were positively to it that the engineers should be real good engineers. Sir, let me tell you, in last 100 years, what we have done bad to the education is we have created boundaries. We said, you are a science student, you are an engineering student. I remember I did my PhD from Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. And there was so much of phobia and so much of high-headedness in the minds of engineers that they treated the non-engineering students as sub-rated, subgrade. In fact, many of the technical educational institutes never used to offer science degrees. It's only of late that the IITs started their MSc and BSc courses. Otherwise, they used to be only engineering. I remember an incident in Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. There was a fellow called Mr. Jhampti. Mr. Jhampti was a geology MSc, and he used to teach practicals. You know, he used to only conduct practical classes. The whole institute started talking non-engineering professionals at Jhampti. I mean, that was the kind of differences we created in this country. This is engineer, non-engineer. And the biggest danger that has given today to us, that I always mention, sir, and you being the chairman of NBA must take note of this. I say it on all forums. Today, only 25% of students go for technical education. About 12 to 13% of them go for engineering, and the same amount go for medical. Rest, all of them either want to do BA, political science, and you know, everybody thinks that by doing political science, getting a BA degree, going training and coaching this thing, they can become an IAS officer. In 1947, 1950, IAS officer qualification was graduate. Even today, it is graduate. In those days, graduate used to be one in the city or one in the town. Today, everybody is graduate minimum, but still you're qualified. But for teachers, it used to be BTech, then it became MTech, and today BTech, MTech, PhD. So imagine a teacher becomes at the age of 32, 33, 34, and a collector becomes at the age of 26, 27, and how the teachers report to collectors. So this system is really very bad. It must change. We must really bring back the system where the student's capability is developed. Sir, I really like those points which you highlighted. You also highlighted about our systems, our value systems, and how Indians are different from others. You mentioned that our solutions have to be found by ourselves. You mentioned about how can we become Vishwaguru. Sir, I always give this example. 1,000 years ago, it was not just 1,000 years ago, even 800 years ago, the Chinese used to come to India for education. And I have a few friends in Indonesia who are Hindu professors in Bali. And they happen to tell me that the Chinese used to come to Bali and stay there for 3 months, learn Sanskrit, and then go to India to learn education system. Because unless they were Sanskrit students, learned Sanskrit, they could not be admitted in Takshashila or Nalanda. This was the situation that we were Vishwaguru one day. But today, we have gone away from that. I think we have to go back on that. You also mentioned that about in times to come, the regulation, the restrictions, the inhibitions would have to be diluted. It's a good idea that UGC, AICT must see, even NBA must see their rules and regulations and guidelines and the systems by which they evaluate. I was just reading the requirements given in NBA. In fact, some of the questions raised by some of the participants is that sir se request karu कि sir NBA के थोड़ा rules देखें कि especially in this online this thing by student teacher ratio. I always give this example of Baba Ramdev. I said, what is a student teacher ratio? One fellow has taught Kapal Bhati and all asanas, yogasans to 125 crore Indians. So what is a student teacher ratio? If a teacher is good, he can teach so many number of students. Plus the other thing, sir, the other day I was reading, only yesterday or day before yesterday, Professor Kasturi Rangan, who made this NEP, he says that after this new NEP, there will be equal footing government institutes and private institutes. I slightly differ with his statement because in government institutes, this sustainability, self-sustainability is missing. They get the grants. In my opinion, all the teachers in this country, there should be a cadre. Now, whether you are in a private institute or government institute or IIT or NIT, teachers will be by the government. They will be paid by the government. There should be acharya. They will be paid by the government. And no institution should have any, each institute should use them as asset. And we should build an education system based on that. If you agree, sir. This is what my suggestion is, that we should have a cadre. And unfortunately, teacher today are those who are not able to get any job. So then they become teacher. So first they are not taught well, because system is like this. Once they have got educated, not taught well, then they end up becoming the teacher. How will they teach well? So these are some of the things which I really take points home. And sir, today's lecture is a lecture, in my opinion, everyone should listen, all teachers, students. And in my opinion, Government of India should have an institute of faculty development. You know, all the faculty from across the country, all institutions should be tutored by tutor like you, by mentor like you, sir. Sir, I think we should sit together and plan out an institution of international stature where day in, day out, 24 hours. Why should our IITs be closed at 5 o'clock? Why should academic institutions be closed at 5 o'clock? I am working in the industry today, which is 24 hours, 365 days, not even a single second shutdown. In the industry which I work for, it is molasses to surfactants. Even 1 minute shutdown means crores of rupees. So we, in academic institutions, we have only 9 to 5. This is not acceptable. We have such investment, such equipment, research scholars should function. My professor, a Telugu Brahmin, he used to tell all the night the light should be on and research scholars should be working. Research scholars should not sleep. I'm talking about Indian School of Mines. And sir, we used to work throughout night. In the plant, in my R&D, in the manufacturing plant, my R&D works 24 hours. They run batches. The research is done 24 hours. The scientists come in each shift. So I think what you have taught today is real good knowledge, sir. And मैं इतना आनंदित हूँ, आपने मेरा हीमोग्लोबिन बढ़ा दिया सर. और सर ऐसे भाषण तो आप देते रहा करो. और आपको मैं निवेदन करूंगा प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर डीके मोदी जी से कि प्रोफेसर अग्रवाल जी को रेगुलरली हम बुलाएं और टीचर से इंटरेक्ट कराएं ऐसे ही. और सर आप ऐसे ही भाषण दिया करो. आपका हृदय इतना विशाल है, जो चीजें आपके हृदय से निकलेंगी वो इतनी विशाल होंगी और इतना प्रभावी होंगी. आप देख सकते हैं मेरे से, मैं अंदर से आह्लादित, इतना प्रसन्न हूं मैं. और बहुत बहुत मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं आपको सर. बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं छात्रों के, टीचर्स के. वेरी गुड लेक्चर. थैंक्स प्रोफेसर अग्रवाल सर फॉर गाइडिंग द टीचर्स एंड स्टूडेंट्स. This is Priyanshu Bhargava, Priyanka Bhargava. Then Priyanshu Yadav is saying, sir, there is no word to explain your speaking way. My God, you are such a wonderful speaker, sir. Greetings to all the respected members. Thank you. This is Priyanka Bharadwaj is telling, and she says such a wonderful lecture, opportunity to listen to a great visionary Professor Agrawal. My God, sir, there is no word to explain. So much of this appreciation. I'm not able to read it without my specs on the screen, sir. There are so many. I would request Professor Sharma to note down all the appreciations and forward it to Professor Agrawal. And I think we should invite Professor Agrawal again and regularly each month on different subjects, on engineering, on management, on pharmacy. And we should only learn from him how to teach, because he is the perfect teacher. You see, he gave the examples of Bansilal ji. Bansilal ji was very ruthless and very rude. And the way he handled him, salute to you, sir. I mean, telling him that the CV of a vice chancellor we took, and now look at the kind of vice chancellor being made. I feel very scared, you know, when I tell them I'm former vice chancellor, because seeing the quality of the vice chancellors today, I don't even like to say I was a vice chancellor. So the way you handled and the way you talked about Professor Murli Manohar Joshi ji, My God, epitome of physics. And what a great visionary he was. Professor Murli Manohar Joshi, you have worked with him. Sir, you have been chairing the committees. You have been involved in ECs of the universities. Having a great personality like you on the platform of Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation today, I think I am delighted. And thank you for blessing me. Charan Sparsh sir, to you and to madam को मेरा प्रणाम बोलिएगा सर. और आप ग्रेट हो सर, सर्वश्रेष्ठ आत्मा हो आप, और आपने आज हमको आशीर्वाद दिया. आप ही एंटाइटल्ड हो आशीर्वाद देने के सर. तो मैं प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर डी के मोदी जी से निवेदन करूंगा कि एक बार स्क्रीन पे आएं और एक बार 2 शब्द कहें. प्रोफेसर डी के मोदी प्लीज. मनीष जी, प्रोफेसर डी के मोदी जी को स्क्रीन पे आइए. प्रणाम चांसलर जी.
Sir, we are honored and we hope to keep getting your blessings on regular basis. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Great. And thank you, Dr. K.N. Modi University in Nevai, Professor Peter Francis. Thank you, Professor Lal, Professor Meghraj ji, Professor Yuan Mishra, all the directors, and Sakshi Garg madam. कितना अच्छा बोले आप, बहुत अच्छा सर का आपने प्रेजेंटेशन किया. एंड प्रोफेसर विजय शर्मा, आज आपने बहुत अच्छा कंडक्ट किया प्रोग्राम. मैं आभारी हूँ मनीष जी आपका भी. आप तो सब सदा श्रेष्ठ करते हो, और सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को मैं नमन करता हूँ. थैंक यू वेरी मच. देयर इज वन थिंग. प्राची नैन लिखती हैं कि इट विल बी इम्पॉसिबल फॉर मी टू से हाउ आई कैन से थैंक्स टू यू. Just mind blowing. Sir, you have really blown mind of all of us today. You're really, I have never heard a lecture as brilliant as yours today. And I think this is masterpiece, masterclass. It must be, I will take it in my social media to all the people on LinkedIn and Facebook. I will post this lecture and I would invite all people to please listen to you. Sir, you are a jewel, really, the right word used by Professor Sharma. You are the jewel for India. And thank you very much, sir, for blessing us. Pranam sabko. मैं वाणी को विराम देता हूँ.
Definitely, it was a mind-blowing session, and it was a great experience for all of us to witness the thought-provoking session delivered by Professor Dr. K.K. Agarwal ji. Now, I would request Dr. Dipankar Sharma ji, Director, Dr. K.N. Modi Institute of Engineering and Technology, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon.
Sharma ji, 1 minute before you actually say, I must acknowledge that there are a lot of people who are online with us from across the country. There is Mansa madam from Andhra Pradesh, and there is Professor Manjeet from NIFTM. We have Nidhi Kaushik madam, Priyanka madam, and Geeta madam. There are so many people who are there from different parts of the country, and we really welcome them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to our worthy chairman, Professor Dr. D.K. Modi, sir. He is a great motivator and supporter to us to conduct such a nice program every time. I would like to pay my sincere regards to our chief mentor, Professor Dr. R.K. Khandal, sir, because without his support and help, we were unable to conduct such a nice program. And I would like to thank sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Dr. K.K. Agarwal, sir. And it was really a nice hearing from sir. And he told so many important things in today's lecture: importance of education and good academician in the system, value education system, requirement of good experiment in education. And in the beginning, sir told us that this Ashirvacanam is only for a student, but really it is a good Ashirvacanam to all the faculty community, and give us a sutra really to be a real teacher. We are really thankful to you, sir. And especially you told the student the art of asking the good questions. This is very important to all the students. And you told us about the outcome-based education system in a very simple manner. Within a line, you explain all the things. So we are very thankful to you that you spare your valuable time and just come here in this program and bless us. Also, I would like to thank all the dignitaries of Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation presented here. all the principal directors of different institutions under the umbrella of Dr. K. N. Modi Foundation, guests from across the India. I'm thankful to them that they come and join us in this program. I would like to pay sincere thanks to our esteemed faculty members, my dear students, and all the IT persons behind this program. They, from beginning from the creation of banners and to post on Facebook and all e-platforms, and to conduct this program so smoothly and successfully. I would like to say thanks, one and all present here. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.